What's up? So, today I will be installing something that personally I've always wanted to install on one of my cars. Never actually did this. Well, I did some kind of similar things, and all that. It is the neon underglow from StreetGlow, the gold series. So, the original stuff that was used in Fast and Furious. Normally, when people do this, they usually do LEDs or whatnot because of ease of install and you get all the different functions and everything like that. Personally, I don't want all of that. I just want clean underglow. I mean, I really don't need this, but it's just been something that I've always wanted to do. Neon underglow, actually, you don't see any of the individual LEDs. It's a lot more of a soft light and just looks like a natural glow from under the car instead of being super harsh, hot spotted light and everything. It does make it a little bit harder to install with it being a tube like this. You're gonna see that I'm gonna have to do some things like cutting and taking the bumpers off and whatnot, just to get this to be on there nicely and be away from any of the heat and all of that. So yeah, let's get into it. So if you can't tell, I already kind of got the kit out and laid out and everything just because I want to see where it's going to go, make sure that I have everything correct as far as like around the car and everything. I really wanted to make sure that the wire routing and everything was proper and all of that. I already actually ran some of the wires inside the car because I just wanted to get that routed and over with and make sure that the lengths were long enough to get to where I needed to be. Normally this kit, you would route it somewhere where the box is in the engine bay and everything, but personally I routed everything into my hatch area because I already have a setup that I'm gonna show you or where I put it and all of that as well. So I already have a audio system in the back here. I also have constant power, ignition, and grounding all in the back of my hatch just because of my whole audio system. I added a extra fuse panel back here from Lucy Systems so that I could have a proper 30 amp relayed ignition source in the back, and each one of them is individually fused and all of that. It's really nice because I can add any extra accessories and power them and ground them and everything from back here. Yeah, it's a little bit of a mess. Some people say this looks clean. I've seen better, but basically what I did was, this is the transformer for the neons. I just mounted to the board back here, and here's the relay for it as well that I also mounted to the board. I have my connector that comes off of the transformer that's also fused, that goes and just basically connects this to the relay. And the relay, I have the wiring not fully tied down yet, but routed up through to the driver's side, or up the driver's side and everything, which has a switch that I can turn it on and off from. I can mount the switch somewhere, which personally I'm not even going to mount it anywhere. I'm just going to hide it behind the fuse panel because I don't like to mount switches on my dash or anything like that. I personally think it looks a little gaudy or not clean. Here you have the fuse that comes off of the relay, which you need constant power and ground, which I am just going to end up connecting to here because this is constant power and this is ground. Yeah, so basically I'm going to have another fuse here as well, which I got to see what this fuse rating is, which it looks to be a 10 amp, so not that much. Currently there's about 160 amps total if you include the 30 amps here, so I'm not even using that much on this. I did this so that I could have constant power, which comes from here. This routes straight to the battery, and I actually undersized the fuse a little bit so that if something happens up front, it will pop and it won't damage any other the wiring equipment or anything else. But I'll show you where I routed the wiring and all that. So I'm going to basically show you I routed the wiring under here through up the side sill and all the way up into the fuse box. And here's the switch for it. Turn it on and off. Obviously I don't have it hooked up yet because I do not want it powering while I'm doing this. These are the wires that hook up to the neon tubes. Basically there's access grommets that you can cut a hole or drill a hole into, and they come up from here. So once you get all the system fully around, you got one wire that comes up this way and one wire that comes up the other way. And then you have a full circuit. I was saying I'm gonna need to cut some things. For the rear, I am going to need to take off my rear valence so that I can get access to part of the bumper bar so I can mount it to the bumper bar. And I'm actually gonna have to cut out a section of the bottom of the valence, which this is the Mark 8.5 Club Sport valence, which that's from Europe. I've had this on for about 7-8 months now. After shipping and everything like that, a little bit of an expensive valence, but that's okay. You know, gotta do what I gotta do to make some things look cool. So, moving this over like this so that the writing is going the proper way. Here's this for this one, and then I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna mount it to the bumper bar, and that'll be for the rear. As for the sides, I already kind of did a test fit. There's actually a channel just in front of the pinch weld here that is perfect amount of space for this tube to fit into. So I'm gonna do that on both sides for the sides, and you can't really see it, but once you actually get under the car, you'll notice it. By the way, these are the gloss black 8.5 Club Sport side skirts that I've also had on for about the same amount of time as that. Actually, I had them on for Low Show last year. I'm gonna mount it here. Yes, it will limit my usage of a jack, but you shouldn't be jacking from the middle anyways. It still leaves the jack points clear. I normally use quick jacks for this stuff, but I need the accessibility here. Like I need it to be open, and the quick jacks block that. If I had a lift, this would make it a little bit easier, but it's okay. As far as does it hang down any, once it's mounted up here, it's tucked up enough that you can't see it. So as for the front, I did mention I'm gonna have to take my front bumper off. Normally there'd be a ton of space up front here that you can use to mount it and everything. But for me, it's a little difficult to find a placement because personally, I have the ARM front mount intercooler from a Mark 7 that I fit into here. I don't really have too much space, so I'm gonna have to kind of mount this more forward, like right about, basically I'm gonna have to cut out a section of this bottom piece here, maybe use some zip ties so that I don't have screws hanging down. I have to take off my front bumper and cut the hole in it, or everything to mount it. You shouldn't be able to see some of the light going down, but even if you do, that'll kind of look cool, I guess, because it'll kind of shine on the intercooler and everything. Yes, the intercooler is black. Can't see it, which is nice. That was kind of my whole thing. For this video and install, I'm kind of just gonna run through and just do it. So I'm just gonna kind of let the video run, do a time lapse of it and everything, and show you the end result. All right guys, so I kind of just got everything ran and all of that, and then tested it all out and put everything back together, because it's just, in all honesty, once you get a couple of things mounted, then it's a matter of just wiring it. And once it's wired, test it out again, and then put everything back together. But as you can see, it's light out right now, so you're not really gonna be able to tell too much. K-Rag in the back over there. I know I know this whole neon is kind of stupid, but you know what? I've always wanted to do it, and finally I did it on the GTI. So be sure to check out the website and go get merch and everything like that. You can actually get these simple Retrowave t-shirts here. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, all that, all the socials and everything. If you like this video and would like to subscribe for more mediocre content such as this, please do, and take care.